story time about how I caught my dad doing the dirty with my best friend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My mom and dad have been married for 30 years. My dad started modeling when he was really young, and he still does it to this day. Every single time that I would bring a friend over to my house, they would always talk about how cute my dad is. It never annoyed me at all because I was so proud of my dad, but it really bothered my mom. So out of respect for my mom, I would just tell my friends not to say anything. My mom is definitely the jealous type. My best friend and I have known each other for about 3 years. She was the new girl at school and we became friends, and ever since then we've been inseparable. She always comes over to my house, we have sleepovers, and my family really likes her. My mom even takes her shopping with us and buys her tons of stuff. She always comes with us to get manicures and pedicures and facials as well. A few years ago, my mom told me that my dad was unfaithful to her, and it really upset me. Basically, my mom couldn't trust him at all. And ever since then, I've kept an eye on him as well. One day I came home early from work. I see my best friend sitting on the couch with my dad. She was kissing his neck. When they saw me, they got I see my best friend kissing my dad on the neck, and when they both saw me, they jumped off the couch right away. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My best friend said, "Oh, you're finally home." And my dad literally just walked toward the kitchen like nothing had happened. My best friend walks toward me to give me a hug, but I stop her straight in her tracks. I asked her why she was kissing my dad's neck. She laughs and said, "Of course I wasn't." And then I said, "I just saw it." And she said that she was just thanking him for all the stuff my mom and dad do for her. Right, I was not buying it. My dad didn't even look me in the eyes after that. I decided not to question her any further, but I was really angry with my best friend. After that, I was totally convinced that there was something going on between them. So I decided to set a trap. I told my mom and dad I would be at work all day and that I would be home really late. And I told my best friend the same thing and that I wouldn't be able to hang out with her. I knew that my mom would be at work all day, which meant that my dad had the house all to himself. I said bye to my dad, but I sneaked back into the house and hid in my room all day. Then I started hearing voices. It sounded just like my best friend. I opened my dad's bedroom door and there they are on the bed doing the dirty. Disgusting. I walk in on my dad and my best friend doing the dirty. They had no clothes on and they were doing it in my mom's bed. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Because I am so intelligent, I recorded the whole thing on my phone. My father had the audacity to yell at me and tell me to get out of the room. I said, "No way." Best friend starts dressing herself frantically, begging me for forgiveness. Then my dad tells her to keep her mouth shut. Well, I don't hesitate for 1 second and I send my mom the video that I just recorded. My dad pulls the phone away from me and throws it at the wall. Then he starts trying to negotiate with me. He said, "If you don't tell your mom, I will never do this again, I promise." I told my best friend to go downstairs and wait for me on the couch. My dad starts putting on his clothes, and by the time he's done, my mom is home. Of course, my mom went off on my best friend, telling her how ungrateful she was. She asked my dad for a divorce. A few days later, I get a message from another friend. She tells me that she also did that with my dad. Since then, 4 other women have told me the same thing. They all go to college with me, so none of them are underage, thank God. My dad is begging my mom back, but she doesn't know what to do. We're both
I'll never forget that time that I was fucking in middle school and I asked my art teacher if I could go to the nurse because my head hurt really bad. And he was like, "No, you need to clean up because class is almost over." So I was like, "Okay." So I started cleaning, but like I started feeling like really bad. So I went up to him again and I was like, "Can I please like go to the nurse? Like I don't feel good." And he was like, "It's almost lunchtime. You can wait." And I was like, "Okay." So I went back to my desk and all of a sudden I got dizzy as shit. The room started spinning. I felt like I was like about to die. Then my vision went blank, like completely black, but I could hear everything. And everyone was laughing at me. They're like, "Zaria, what are you doing? Why do you look like that?" And I tapped the girl next to me. I was like, "Can you walk me to the nurse? Like, I don't feel good." And she's like, "You're joking. Like, you're not even being serious." And I was like, "Okay, I'll walk myself." So I started walking and I ran into a glass door and I fell backwards, hit my head, and then I went to the hospital.
So this friend tells his ex-girlfriend that he now has a new girlfriend, and all of a sudden 2 days later she messages him saying that she's pregnant. Keep in mind at this point we've been dating for about 3 months. Long story short, he ends up breaking up with me because he says he took her to the clinic and that he confirmed that she was in fact pregnant, so that his baby mama and his baby were going to come first. So my young, dumb, naive self was heartbroken or whatever. But anyway, fast forward to my first semester in college. I get a call from a random number and I immediately recognize his voice. He was just saying how he missed me and he really wanted to see me. And I was like, absolutely not. You need to worry about being a father. And so he confesses that he actually never took her to the clinic and she lied about her pregnancy and he just found out, so he broke up with her. He's obviously pathetic, so I block him and he ends up making multiple social media accounts to reach out to me. And to this very day, girl, he's still trying to do that, but he gets blocked every single time.
Am I the asshole for not changing my baby's name again after I changed it for my sister once already? I have a 9-year-old daughter and another on the way. I had 2 grandmothers, Annie and Rose. I named my oldest Annabelle. I did not name her after Nana Rose at the time she was born. Nana Rose was still with us. When I found out I was pregnant with a second, I decided to name her after Nana Rose, who passed in 2017. My sister Lucy got pregnant about 5 months before me. She says that she wants to name her baby Rose after Nana Rose. I say our kids can share the name. She says I already have Annabelle, and I could have named her Annabelle Rose or something, but passed on the chance. So I can't also have Rose. I figured this is not the hill to die on. So I say I'll look for something else. I then crack open a baby book, and after a few entries after Rose is Rosalie.
Storytime about how I was groomed for almost 2 years and didn't even know it. So a little background information. When I was 15, my house burnt down, and I went into a little bit of a depression. So after losing everything, my 6 siblings and I had to move into a 3-bedroom place with my grandparents. And a month or so later, I was looking for friends. Someone to talk to or pretty much anything that would just make me feel better. Well, this guy messaged me, and he said, "You're pretty as shit." And I'm 15, so a bitch was excited. Well, 2 weeks later, I asked my mom if I could go over my friend Samantha's. And of course, she said yes, because I had stayed with Samantha a lot during this time. Also because there was barely room for any of us in this 3-bedroom house. So a little background information on my parents. My mom had been a police officer for 12 years. Sadly, she had to retire because of a neck surgery. My ex-stepdad was and still is a police officer today. Anyway, so my mom asked for pictures whenever I went over Samantha's to make sure I was really there. Like for part 2.
So I get a DM from a girl and she's like, "Hey girlie, I know you don't know me, but do you know so-and-so?" And I was like, "Yes, we've been talking for X amount of months. Are you talking to him?" And she was like, "Yes, he's actually my boyfriend of 2 years and I'm pregnant by him." Girl, when I tell you I was shook to the core, like I didn't even know how to respond to this girl. I didn't even know how to feel. I mean, I wasn't her. I was just more so confused because we had each other on social media for so long and he never posted that he was in any relationship. So she told me that she found out about me because she was snooping through his phone and he had all of my contact and notifications on hide alerts and do not disturb. Anyway, so we DM back and forth basically the entire day, and the DMs are pretty juicy or whatever, but I'm not going to go into detail about that. I answered all of her questions. I sent her all the screenshots she wanted to see, and I apologized for not knowing that she was part of his life. He lied to both of us and really downplayed the situation between him and I, but whatever, he wasn't worth it, so I blocked him and her and I became friends.
Storytime about how I was groomed for almost 2 years and didn't even know. So like I said, my mom used to ask for pictures to make sure that I was really at Samantha's house. Well, Samantha lived about 10 minutes away from the guy that I was talking to. Every time that I went to her house, I would leave at about 8 p.m. and go over to his house. And he was 26 years old. And obviously I knew my parents would freak the fuck out if they found out. And we had planned to keep this a secret until I turned 18. So that way my parents couldn't tell me that I wasn't allowed to be with him. So flash forward to about 3 days before I turned 18. My mom comes into my work. She walks up to me, shows me a picture of him, and says, "Who the hell is this?" So of course I say I have no idea who the hell she's talking about. She said okay and then left. Well, as soon as I got home, her and my dad were sitting in the living room, waiting for me to explain who that man was. So I told them everything. They decided not to take legal action, but my mom explained to me that I was so young and he took advantage of me and stuff like that, so I never saw him again.
Am I the asshole for refusing to attend an apology dinner after my mother-in-law called me a bad mother at my son's funeral? I lost my son to congenital heart disease, and he did not survive the open heart surgery at the age of 1 year and 6 months. Mother-in-law and I were in constant conflict. Things always been bad between us, but in those months, we reached our limit. She kept getting involved in my son's treatment and criticized every decision I made, claiming I didn't know how to handle my son's illness. We went low contact, but she kept causing issues occasionally. My husband was torn between our son's illness and his mother's issues. When my son passed away, she came to the funeral and caused a scene by arguing with me, knowing I had no energy for it.
Oh my gosh.
She used the fact that everyone was there so she could say it was my fault my son was born sick and I didn't take care of him properly, and that I was the one who took their grandchild away from them and caused them heartache. She then loudly called me a bad mother. I had no idea how I kept my composure.
So my sister just got in a lot of trouble. She wanted to make some extra money, so she went around our neighborhood asking the neighbors if they needed any help. So one of my neighbors answered, and my sister asked him if he needed any help, and he said, I do need my porch painted. How does $50 sound? So my sister agrees, and she started working. So my neighbor goes back inside his house, and his wife asks him, does she know that the porch wraps around the whole house? And he said, of course she does. She saw it. After she's done with the work, she went to the door to collect the money, and she says, I had extra paint, so I put a second coat on it. My neighbor was really impressed, so he paid her $100, and my sister thanks him, and she says, by the way, it's a BMW, not a Porsche.
Hi girlies, I'm back with another story time. So this one's about the time that my boyfriend got his ex pregnant. So I was a senior in high school or whatever, and I was dating this guy who was 23 at the time, I believe. Anyway, he was always off and on with his long-term girlfriend, and I was so dumb and naive that I actually thought he wanted to be with me every time that he'd break up with her and come to me. But anyway, the point is they actually broke up for a long time, so he ends up asking me out. A really big red flag that I should have paid attention to was that he had me blocked on his social media for a while, and then when he added me on there, he never posted me or anything, but he would post like every single day. So basically he kept me a secret, but I was dumb. Anyways, so we go to a party and there's this mutual friend